How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. Thank you very much for being with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, really happy to have you. And I gotta put a pause on. You can call in, the lines are open, but I'm going to spend some time here diving into what essentially amounts to a coup by Kristy Noem and Corey Lewandowski against the president's policies on immigration. And I need to pull back the curtain on some drama that's happening in Washington that I am well sourced on, talking to a whole lot of people, and I want you to know my biases out of the gate. I have never been a fan of Kristy Noem and was one of the few conservatives who complained about her nomination to Homeland Security. She was not a good member of Congress. She claimed to be a conservative, and the House Freedom Caucus, and before that, the Republican Study Committee, grew a deep distrust of Kristy Noem. They felt like she would regularly sabotage them on behalf of leadership. She would do whatever the leaders wanted to do, and then she would rush to the camera to try to take credit for conservative wins. She then got elected governor of South Dakota, and she supported the transgender lobby because some of her major medical donors supported the transgender lobby. Only when the winds shifted and conservatives became very outraged about the issue of boys and girls sports did Kristy Noem cave. You must remember this is the woman who wrote a book to position herself to run for president. And one of her relatable moments is how she gunned down her own dog. From puppies to Alex Preddy, the death toll on Kristy Noem's watch just continues to go up. She is incompetent, but she's one of those people who masquerades her incompetence through Botox and fillers and otherwise trying to play the part. You know these people exist, and what many of you, because of partisan tribalism, don't want to acknowledge is they exist on your side too. It's not just the other side. You know them in your own line of work. They're incompetent people, but they use the buzzwords and they dress to play the part, and many times employers above them, their bosses, see them looking competent and decide they're competent when really they're fools and morons. Kristy Noem is one of those people who plays the part, gets the filler and the Botox and whatever else she needs to look pretty for the camera for Donald Trump because she knows that's his type. And then she dresses up in uniforms that aren't really hers to dress up in, so she looks the role, and it overshadows the fact that she's a bumbling idiot who has surrounded herself with other vain people, and this is a vanity issue. And this has led us to a situation with Kristy Noem now, where Kristy Noem and Corey Lewandowski and others are dumping on career law enforcement officials within the Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, ICE, the Border Patrol, and the like, because they want the credit, because they need the credit, because their egos need the credit. There are now a series of reports coming out today that Kristy Noem is sabotaging Tom Homan's efforts already. Today is Thursday. Tom Homan arrived on the scene on Monday. He held his first press conference this morning, and Kristy Noem is already sabotaging Tom Homan and Rodney Scott. If you want the biggest news of the day, though, on where all of this stands with Donald Trump, though, consider this. Donald Trump in a cabinet meeting asked questions of Kelly Loeffler, the Small Business Administration supervisor, administrator, and then skipped Kristy Noem, moving to the next person. One of the people who has done yeoman's work on this is Anna Yaratelli. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, a real reporter who writes for the Washington Examiner who has been sounding the alarm on this issue for over a year. Anna is a conservative reporter, and we often forget that there are conservative publications like the Washington Examiner, but they often get overshadowed by having a massive amount of opinion and commentary, but they have some great reporters. Anna's a great reporter who is a conservative, writing for a conservative publication, who has well documented the fight within the Department of Homeland Security. And it looks like now the president, having charged Tom Homan and Rodney Scott and Todd Lyons to take over an operation that Kristy Noem blew apart, she's now trying to sabotage their efforts. The Customs and Border Protection Commissioner, Rodney Scott, sent 3 memos today or yesterday to senior Customs and Border Protection leaders, asserting his control over the agency and informed those under him that they are to report to him, not to the Department of Homeland Security. He is in charge of Customs and Border Protection. Donald Trump wanted him in charge of Customs and Border Protection. Kristy Noem and Corey Lewandowski have encouraged their favorites to report to them and bypass the boss, Rodney Scott. The General Counsel for the Department of Homeland Security has instructed Customs and Border Protection agents to ignore their boss's memo telling them they report to him. Think about that. He's the head of Customs and Border Protection. Noem and Lewandowski elevated Gregory Bovino above his bosses. The boss sends out a memo and says, hey, reminder, I'm in charge. You report to me. And Kristy Noem's lawyer is now telling people, no, you ignore that. And by the way, it's Kristy Noem's handpicked general counsel doing that. This is from Anna Yaratelli. The Noem-Lewandowski-Miller versus Homan-Scott-Lyons fight continues to heat up as Department of Homeland Security leaders try again to sabotage lifetime law enforcement officials rather than bow out, try to fix the Minnesota situation or address any other problem across the 260,000-person department. While all eyes are on Tom Homan and Rodney Scott in Minneapolis for a press conference, a second news outlet today published a hit job attacking Rodney Scott. This is a conservative group that will go nameless in Washington, D.C., that is attempting to sabotage Todd Homan today. Why? Because of access. There are a lot of leg humpers in Washington who want seats at the table, and they don't like that they don't get access from the career law enforcement guys who are the competent ones. CNN asked a question that wanting to know why Greg Bovino and Border Patrol agents were stopping citizens in the interior of the country asking for IDs. Tom Homan replied that actually there was a massive law enforcement effort because of harassment of Border Patrol agents, but the reality is that Greg Bovino's position as Commander of Operations at Large was a fake position that Kristy Noem created and told him to bypass the Border Patrol chief, Mike Banks, his direct boss, and the Customs and Border Protection Commissioner, Rodney Scott, who is Mike Banks' boss. So Greg Bovino was put in a position by Kristy Noem to bypass all of his superiors and report to Kristy Noem. He led the operation in Minnesota, and now, according to Stephen Miller, it was Gregory Bovino's team that failed to operate the protocols necessary to keep people safe, and that led to Alex Preddy's death. And now we have reporting at The Atlantic by Michael Shear. When Kristy Noem and Rodney Scott stepped before the cameras on Saturday, Noem appeared to have an upper hand over Rodney Scott, but the balance of power has since shifted. Frustrated by the backlash at Alex Preddy's death, Trump announced on Monday that Tom Homan would take over operations in Minnesota. Gregory Bravino has been stripped of his commander role and sent back to El Centro, California. Seemingly well aware of the divides around him, Trump announced he was removing Noem from the chain of command in Minnesota. When Homan spoke to reporters today, with Rodney Scott standing beside him, he tried striking a conciliatory tone that he'd arrived to make changes in federal operations. I didn't come to Minnesota for photo ops or headlines, he said. Homan urged Minnesota leaders to give ICE more access to detainees in local jails and said he'd withhold federal forces if cooperation improves. Homan and Rodney Scott arrived in the state Monday with orders to de-escalate tensions, which Trump had flooded with 3,000 federal agents in Minneapolis, the largest Homeland Security deployment in history. The same day, Noem and Lewandowski were called into the White House for a 2-hour meeting with the president, but not with Stephen Miller. The following day, Trump said he had come to share the concerns of Rodney Scott and Tom Homan, saying it was normal for him to shake up teams. You know, Bovino is very good, but he's a pretty out there kind of guy, and in some cases that may be good. Maybe it wasn't good here. But the battle inside the agency is continuing, with Rodney Scott's email to senior officials Monday reminding them he's in charge of the agency, and Kristy Noem's lawyer, James Percival, notifying Customs and Border Protection employees to disregard the email. The split between the two factions is not ideological. Homan and Scott are no less hardline on border and immigration enforcement than Noem and Lewandowski are. Homan wants to ramp up deportations with more ICE officers, detention capacity, and deportation flights, but without the social media trolling and the show me your papers approach. Both men work their way up through the ranks of their agencies. They represent an institutional wing of MAGA that wants to pursue the president's deportation goals under existing chain of command structures and conventional division of labor in which the Border Patrol guards the border and ICE handles immigration arrests. They have the backing of the career officials at Department of Homeland Security who hated Joe Biden's approach and see Noem's approach as ad hoc, performative, and possibly motivated by her political ambitions, with Lewandowski pulling the strings. At DHS headquarters in Southeast Washington, staffers addressed Lewandowski as chief even though he didn't have an actual title. Allies of Noem have decided Homan and Scott are bureaucratic dinosaurs unable to achieve the president's objectives. They have tried to satisfy Stephen Miller's demands, who runs immigration policy inside Trump's orbit and functions as the actual czar of the deportation campaign. Miller has set aggressive benchmarks. Noem puts Customs and Border Protection officials in charge of ICE offices and diverted highly trained investigative agents from trafficking cases and drug cartels to make immigration arrests on the streets. What's happening inside is that the president has elevated Todd Lyons, who's the head of ICE, Rodney Scott, who's the head of Customs and Border Protection, and is coordinating them with his border czar, Tom Homan. He has extricated Kristy Noem and Corey Lewandowski, and Kristy Noem and Corey Lewandowski are not going to be extricated from the situation. She is the Senate-confirmed Secretary of Homeland Security. No one within the Department of Homeland Security can cooperate with Tom Homan without her consent. The president has elevated Rodney Scott and Todd Lyons to work with Tom Homan, so she can't stop them because the president has said as much. But what she can and is attempting to do is to stop all of Rodney Scott and Todd Lyons' employees from working with their bosses, bypassing the bosses to work with her. She wants the credit. If she wants the credit, she needs the blame for Alex Preddy's death. She needs the blame for spiraling situations. They will blame the left, which deserves much of the blame. They will blame the lack of cooperation from Minnesota and Minneapolis, which is deserved. But they will try to scuttle Tom Homan from getting that cooperation so that they can say, see, it wasn't us. It was the left. Put us back in charge, coach. They're attempting a coup to sabotage the president's agenda. They would rather get the credit for an ineffective strategy that's getting Americans killed than have an actual effective strategy with other people in charge. This is the nature of the vanity play by incompetent people. They would rather rule the ashes than serve under a system that works. Kristy Noem and Corey Lewandowski would rather be the rulers of hell than the servants in heaven. They would rather the policy fail without them than see a policy not effectively implemented. This is the nature of the situation. And I would tell the president, I know you're loyal. I know you're loyal. But these people need to go if you really want to get deportations going. And to the Democrats in the United States Congress, I would tell you, you should shut your mouths on the idea that you're not going to do anything even if she's gone, because you're providing the president no incentive to get her gone. All of you people in Washington these days are far more interested in taking credit for things and seeing your name in headlines than actually seeing competent things happen. Tom Homan and Todd Lyons and Rodney Scott are competent and capable and should be in charge. The fact that the appointed people would rather they fail if they don't get the credit tells you everything you need to know about the mess we're in. Greetings, welcome. It's Eric Erickson. The phone number is 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. So here's what's going to happen. I don't wish to go here, but I do need you to know I do think that progressives are going to start killing ICE and Border Patrol agents if they can. Last night, Stephen Colbert made a joke that you shouldn't compare Border Patrol agents to Nazis because at least Nazis showed their face. The district attorney in Pennsylvania said that they were going to hunt ICE agents like they were Nazis and deliver them to justice. You have Tim Walz and Jacob Frey attacking them as Nazis. The left believes they have to bring heaven to earth because there is otherwise no heaven. And if that leads to the extermination of people they think are bad, they'll do it. When there is no heaven, there's only this place. You must deliver utopia. That means getting rid of the people you think are disturbing utopia. They're going to turn violent on these employees of the government who are just doing their job. You can see it coming. Now, let me tell you about Incogni. These ICE agents probably need it. Incogni, INCOGNI.com, Incogni.com. They will erase your personal information online from those data broker websites. By the way, this helps with those spam calls you get because they get the data brokers out there to wipe your cell phone numbers off their websites too. Incogni.com/Eric. You can save up to 60% off. Incogni, INCOGNI, Incogni.com/Eric. I've already seen a noticeable difference since I've been using Incogni. I was looking for a solution, stumbled upon them. I actually am a customer of Incogni, and I can tell you my spam calls have gone down since I used them. I wanted them because of a doxing situation where someone put out information about my family online and wanted someone who could partner with me to go scrub the internet of my information. They can do it for you as well. Incogni.com/Eric. You know, insurance companies use those data brokers too and set your insurance rates. So the less information you have available, the better it is. Incogni can help you working behind the scenes, getting your information taken down. Incogni.com/Eric. You can save up to 60% off. Incogni.com. Hello and welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I want to attempt to answer a question from listener Barb in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And listener Greg in Vero Beach, Florida, is going to be upset with me for answering Barb's question because anytime, you should understand, anytime I mention anything about religion, and this, I'm not actually going into theology here, bear with me though, anytime I mention religion, or it sounds even theological, I get a hateful email from Greg that he's tuning out. But Barb is asking a question. And Barb wants to know why it is the left has this propensity to turn violent for these insane causes like defending illegal immigration and illegal immigrants against their fellow citizen. And Barb, I know the answer, and Greg's not going to like the answer, but it is the only answer I can give. Some of you who are longtime listeners have heard me say this before. Barb is not. We got a lot of new listeners in a lot of new locations around the country, so just bear with me here. I want to begin with Senator Dick Durbin. Dick Durbin is the outgoing senator from Illinois, and I want to play for you some of this speech from the floor of the Senate yesterday.
Mr. President, earlier this month, the nation watched in horror as social media was flooded with images and videos of a federal immigration officer shooting and killing an American citizen, Renee Good, as part of the Trump administration's military enforcement operation in Minneapolis. Now, fresh on the heels of that tragedy, another one has struck. This weekend, federal agents gunned down yet another American in Minneapolis, Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse at a VA hospital in Minneapolis. I'm going to show a photo of that scene, which is graphic.
The photo that Senator Durbin then put up is of Alex Preddy on all fours with a gun in his hand, with an ICE or a Border Patrol agent with his gun at the back of Alex Preddy's head, about to put a bullet in the back of Alex Preddy's head. This photo was widely circulated on social media. 2 days before Dick Durbin showed that picture, it was thoroughly debunked as AI generated, circulated by a lot of left-wing activists. 2 days before Dick Durbin put that photo on the floor of the Senate for everyone to see. In fact, in the very photo, you can see that one of the Border Patrol agents holding Alex Preddy down is headless. If you pay attention to the picture, the agent has no head. His neck grows into the hand of another agent. It's an AI-generated image. Yesterday, a progressive got 2 million views on a picture of Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse, helping rehab 2 veterans. If you pay attention to the picture, there's an American flag on the wall behind the scenes, and the American flag has 15 stripes, not 13. And Alex Preddy is redheaded. It was an AI-generated picture. The left are circulating AI-generated pictures to try to elevate who Alex Preddy was and to defame the Border Patrol for what they did. I played you this the other day, but it's worth playing again. This is Larry Krasner, the Philadelphia District Attorney, talking about hunting ICE agents.
This is a small bunch of wannabe Nazis. That's what they are. In a country of 350 million, we outnumber them. If we have to hunt you down the way they hunted down Nazis for decades, we will find your identities. We will find you. We will achieve justice. And
ICE agents as Nazis, by the way, it's Border Patrol, but ICE agents as Nazis, he says. And this is Stephen Colbert on his show last night.
No meal will ever go unspit upon. Pavino went on complaining.
Look, Dana, they're trying to portray Border Patrol agents and ICE agents as Gestapo, Nazi, and many other words.
Yes, do not compare ICE or Border Patrol agents to the Nazis. That's an unfair comparison. The Nazis were willing to show their faces.
And his left-wing crowd loved it. Why are they doing this? Sorry, Greg. The answer actually is theological, but not in the way you might think. If you are of a religious denomination, if you're a Christian, if you are a Jew, if you are a Muslim, if you are a Buddhist, if you are a Hindu, you have an afterlife. You have a sense of a heaven or a hell. If you're a universalist, maybe you believe we all go to heaven. If you're a secular progressive, you may have an abstract view of a heaven, but deep down, you really believe your obligation is to make heaven here. This is why the social gospel of Christianity is so prevalent on the left. I've mentioned this before. The book of Amos, my favorite book of the Old Testament, is the least preached in evangelical churches in the United States because it has been embraced by progressive Christianity, atheist Christianity. It purports to teach a social gospel that you've got to take care of the widows, the poor, the orphans, and the refugees. Evangelical churches have kind of turned their back on it. They should reclaim it because progressives love it, thinking that it's talking about a social gospel, that we got to build heaven on earth. For progressives, there's no heaven. This is the best they're ever going to have it. Now, theologically, that's also true. This is the best they're going to have it. From the moment of death through eternity, it's going to be a lot worse for them if they don't believe in God. But their obligation is to build a heaven on earth. This is why left-wing ideology always results in mass murder. Pol Pot, Mao, Stalin, Lenin, even Hitler, who was a socialist. Hitler was a left-wing socialist. Left-wing historians revised the history books to claim that the Nazis were somehow on the right when they weren't. They were the kissing cousins of the communists, and for a very long time were partners with Stalin and the Soviets until Hitler stabbed Stalin in the back and they started hating each other. But they're kissing cousins. You read the Nazi Party platform, Liberal Fascism, written by Jonah Goldberg, outlines how so much of the fascists were and the progressive Americans in the 1920s and 30s were all buddies. Because Nazis and fascists in Italy lost World War II, the liberal historians of the West repainted them as right-wing for part of their agenda, but they were always recognized at the time as being on the left. Joe Kennedy loved Hitler and Mussolini. And they have no afterlife. And so they must bring heaven to earth. This is why the environmentalists turn violent. This is why environmentalists blow up rail lines and pipelines and kill people and go after oil executives and the like. If you are a progressive environmentalist and you believe the world is going to end unless we have fewer kids and stop driving SUVs and stop burning coal and oil and natural gas and go back to the dark ages where we relied on wind and solar power. If you believe that, you can do everything right. You can walk or bike everywhere. You can give up plastic bags at the grocery store and have your dirty, disease-infested, multi-use cloth bags. You can put solar panels on your roof. You can grow a garden in your backyard, and you can save your poop and vegetable and solid waste and compost your backyard. You can recycle your urine to drink. You can do everything you need to do to save the planet so your carbon footprint is negative. Not even zero, but negative. But on your front porch, as you sit outside because you've gotten rid of your air conditioner and you want it to be cool and it's cooler on your front porch, and you look across and there is your neighbor with his 15-passenger van for his 9 children and his diesel-burning F-350 for his work. And he's got out his big green egg, and he's using the charcoal and grilling burgers for the family. And he's got the air conditioner fired up, and he's laughed at your solar panels. Well, you can do everything right, and as long as that guy and his family exist, you're still getting hell on earth. So you have 2 options. You get the government to pass laws that prohibit his vehicles and his lifestyle, force him out of his air conditioner, get him out of being able to eat meat, sterilize his wife, punish them with the tax code from having more kids, destroy their local schools so they have no interest in having kids, drive up the costs of their life so the wife couldn't even stay home to homeschool the kids. It's not an option. She's got to go to work. So you've discouraged childbirth. Don't want any more carbon mouth breathing. You do all of that, and this family still exists. Well, you're going to have hell on earth unless you exterminate them. exterminate the oil CEO. Here you are now, a progressive. You believe the nation is systemically racist. It is founded on racism, on stolen land, no less. And you wish to cleanse the land. You have protected the illegal aliens who cross the border illegally because the border doesn't exist. It's a figment imposed by the white settler colonist oppressors. You have given safe harbor to the illegal aliens. You have decided they're like Anne Frank. You have hid them in the attic. Your friends in Minneapolis have died in the streets protecting the illegal aliens. You said the Americans who were targeted by the illegal immigrants, well, they got what they deserved, or they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's unfortunate, but the illegal aliens acted out because of a system of oppression. It wasn't them. It was they were oppressed and they were acting out. It's not them. And yet you've done everything you can to protect them. And ICE and Border Patrol, they've still found them. The only way you can protect them and get your heaven on earth, to get your utopia where the illegal aliens are elevated in society and treated as gems, is to exterminate the Border Patrol agents coming for them. Your last line of protection against the illegal aliens is to kill the ICE agents and the Border Patrol agents to get your heaven on earth. Because you have no afterlife. This is it for you. And the way you want to improve it is to protect the illegal aliens. You want to be a good ally. Allyship comes at a cost. You have to prove your worth. And if your worth is dying trying to protect illegal aliens, well, so be it. And if you can take out the Border Patrol agents, well, you've made the world a better place because you've stamped out the people you've decided are Nazis. This is where the logic heads. This is why they do it. They do it because it's a theological belief that there is no heaven. This is the best we've got it, and so we have to make it the best. And they can do everything right, and as long as there are still in their minds bad people, they're not going to get their utopia unless they get rid of the bad people. They are right now otherizing the Border Patrol agents and the ICE agents as Nazis. What do you do to Nazis? You get rid of the Nazis. Once enough people on the left has imbibed from the fountain of this hateful secular ideology that always leads to mass murder, they will view it as virtuous and righteous to exterminate the federal agents who are engaged in deportations. They'll feel good killing the Border Patrol agents and the ICE agents. They will. Because they're saving people from a systemic system of racism and oppression, and the white agents and the Hispanic agents who are acting white, who are doing what they can to perpetuate a white, oppressive, racist, illegitimate society. They'll feel good about it. They'll hope to kill more of them. Every secular left-wing ideology ultimately descends to this unless it is stopped. And how do you stop it? It's not with reciprocal violence, by the way. It's with the people of the country showing up at the ballot box and rejecting the ideology. They can't carry out their ideology if you reject them at the ballot box and empower others. They become more and more marginalized, and the Democratic Party realizes that in order to win back power, they have to separate. And then those people get otherized, and they don't have the political clout or the protection to continue existing as they do, and eventually they go back into the shadows. You're never going to completely get rid of them. They want to completely get rid of you. So what do? You go show up in November and you vote Republican and you reject this hateful secular progressive ideology. Hello there. Progressives in the United States oftentimes want to show their compassion by leaving the homeless alone. They treat them almost as if they've made a choice to be in the streets. So they don't do anything for them. They redefine it as urban camping. I drove into work this morning. There was a massive fire off the interstate, and I realized it was a homeless encampment by the river where I live, and this fire was just raging. The left does these things. When Zoran Mandani became mayor of New York, he announced that he would end the longtime policy of New York that goes back multiple mayors, where the police would actively force homeless people off the streets into homeless shelters. When it got too cold, they would go into the parks and round them up and force them for their own protection to go into homeless shelters. And Mamdani has now said it's actually a choice. We should be kind to them and show them kindness by leaving them alone. 10 homeless people have frozen to death in New York this week because of the bitter cold temperatures, because the city decided it was kinder to let them die in the streets than protect their lives. So much of the cult of death on the left is evil masqueraded as kindness, and they're okay with the decline in the population because, look, in the progressive mindset, this is 10 less homeless people the city has to take care of now. It's also why they like euthanasia for sick people. I mean, might as well free up the resources, get all the sick people to commit suicide, frees up money for the other people. It is a perverse ideology grounded in a secularism that believes this is all we have. The worms eat our body, and over time people forget about us and the world moves on. And the way to make heaven on earth is, well, to cull the population of people who are otherwise consuming the resources and causing the problems. And so I suspect Mamdani will say it's tragic, but it was their choice, as opposed to we could have actually helped those people. Now, I want to help you, and Swiss America wants to help you. I've been buying gold from Swiss America, and gold prices. I got in before gold skyrocketed, and now it has. And, you know, it's just it added a little bit to my portfolio. They are a trusted leader in this country and have been for 40 years on selling precious metals, and they want to help educate you to protect your hard-earned assets right now. You can get their report, The Secret War on Cash. Your copy's free by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency, and it's spreading. So read The Secret War on Cash report. It is free. All you do is mention my name, Eric, when you call or text 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. If you want to get really educated and stay informed on what's happening in global currency affairs and the like, they've also got a great YouTube platform. You look for Swiss America Trading. They got a good podcast that keeps you up to date on what the BRICS are doing, currency flows, precious metal fluctuations and why they're fluctuating. Look for Swiss America Trading on YouTube. And call or text them my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. Or you can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Message and data rates may apply.